Hello, hello. Welcome back to Juwan's MMA Corner. My name is Juwan. We have big news. Yesterday, Dana White went on his live on Instagram and announced the next coming fight. UFC 317 for International Fight Week. June 28th, Ilia Topuria will be facing Charles Oliveira. Now, the fight that I wanted to happen was Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. But because Jack Della Maddalena won against Bilal Muhammad last Saturday, that means he's the champion of the 170s. Meaning Islam's best friend, or not best friend, or friend, teammate, I don't know, training partner, is no longer the champion. So he doesn't need to fight him anymore. So he can go fight Jack Della Maddalena. And that's exactly what he's going to be doing. Maybe not right away. I hope not right away. I think he should fight somebody in the 170s first, and then go and get Jack Della Maddalena. It's a different division, and they're a lot bigger. 15-pound difference between the two divisions, 155 to 170. Like, bro, these guys are cutting down from 200 pounds. These are bigger dudes, right? But because Islam is moving up to 170s, that means the lightweight championship is vacant. And Ilia Topuria is moving in to the 155 division. And he was hoping to fight Islam Makhachev, but he was preparing for somebody else too. He was preparing for Islam Makhachev, and he was also preparing for Charles Oliveira. He said it before in his interviews. He's like, I'm preparing for two people. And for whichever one comes, I'm going to get him, right? And he was saying with Islam, right? This is just what he was predicting with Islam. What's his favorite submission? Darce choke? Okay, I'm going to take him to Khabib's corner, and I'm going to put him in his favorite submission. I'm going to put him in a Darce choke and submit him like that. I got to go and break these records. I got to be the first one to do it. If that's how he does it, that's how I'm going to do it, you know? And better. I'm going to finish with class is what he says. So now, we're no longer getting that fight. At least for now. Hopefully we see it in the future, but that's when Ilia has to move up to 170. Or maybe, you never know, Islam cuts back down to 155 and gets the two belts. You never know. Might be, you know? But cutting that to 155, I think, is a big task for Islam Makhachev. Now, for Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, these are two of my favorites. When I first started watching the UFC again, like maybe a couple years ago, I first found out about Charles Oliveira. Bro, submission specialist, jiu-jitsu master from Brazil to Bronx. He had aura, bro, the golden hair and everything. And now I saw him winning. And I think the first fight that I actually saw him like live on TV was him versus Dustin Poirier. And before that, I think it was Michael Chandler, right? I saw that on my phone. But that Dustin Poirier fight, I was excited. I was hyped, and Charles Oliveira was one of my favorites. He still is one of my favorites. But now we got this masterclass specialist, all well-rounded, beautiful striking, beautiful wrestling, beautiful jiu-jitsu. Ilia Topuria is a well-rounded fighter. I think he's the best of the best in the UFC right now. I don't see anybody fighting the way Ilia does, taking people out the way Ilia does. Just his style, his defense, his striking. Yeah, Ilia Topuria is a well-rounded fighter, all-rounded fighter. Charles Oliveira, we've seen him get dropped multiple times. I'm a huge fan of Charles Oliveira. These are two of my favorite fighters having to fight each other. I don't want this to happen, but it has to happen. But I got some predictions that I don't think maybe you thought about, maybe you haven't, but think about this. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. How do I see that happening? How do I see it playing? How do I see it going down? Well, one, I'm very excited. I'm very excited that fight's happening. Regardless of Islam not being able to make it to the fight, I'm excited that Ilia Topuria is going to be fighting against Charles Oliveira. All right? It's going to be a great fight nonetheless. Good introduction for Ilia Topuria. And Charles Oliveira was honestly next in line for the belt. He just beat Michael Chandler, which put him back in the winning column, right? But before that, it was a super, super close fight against Arman. I was thinking that Charles Oliveira could have won the fight. He almost finished the fight in the last few seconds of the round, in the third round. And in the first round, he almost choked out Arman again, you know? So I was like, I thought that he had won that fight. They gave it to Arman. It is what it is. But now, Charles Oliveira should be next up in line for the championship regardless, right? It was supposed to be Islam and then whoever's next, and then maybe Charles. Either that or Charles up next. That whoever was next in the middle, I was expecting it to be Ilia Topuria. But no. So instead, we're getting Islam out of the picture, and we're getting Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira, right? That's how the rankings work. And for the belt, this is actually for the belt. He said he wanted the title shot. No matter who it is, I want the belt. I don't care if it's Islam. I don't care if it's him. I want the belt. and he's gonna get the belt. Striking department, how do I see that happening? Charles has great striking. We've seen him drop people before. I spit there. We've seen him drop people before. He's dropped Michael Chandler. He's dropped Justin Gaethje. And he completely dominated Dustin Poirier for some reason. Dustin Poirier fought weird that fight. He let him take his back for a whole round. He wasn't defending the jiu-jitsu or anything. He was just, giving him his back. It was very, I don't know. He looked very outclassed in the grappling department compared to Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira, I don't know how many submissions he has, but he has the most submissions in the UFC history. All right, he was a 145er who moved up to 155 and then just went on a complete winning streak, became champion, and then defended his title until Islam came and took it away from him. And he took it away from him, I guess, by hitting him down and then getting him in that Darce choke, right? But before that, he had lost the fight before he ever entered the fight because he was off the weight limit by 0.5 pounds. I think he came in at like 156. So because of that, they took away the belt. And even if he had won, he still wouldn't have had the belt because he didn't make the weight. So it was a loss regardless for Charles Oliveira. That could have played in his mental. It could have slowed him down. It could have made him doubt himself. And we've seen him before in the past, like where he has given up on himself. I'm not saying he's the same person now, but he has given up on himself before. So if that little doubt got in his head of you're no longer champion, even if you win, you're not going to get the belt, what's the freaking point? Like, that could have been one of the reasons he lost so easily against Islam Makhachev. Or that Islam Makhachev was just that much better and prepared for Charles Oliveira, right? And he had Khabib on his corner, right? We saw the difference of him and Khabib in his corner than him without Khabib in his corner. Him with Charles Oliveira, against Charles Oliveira and Alexander Volkanovski the second time versus him without Khabib against Volkanovski the first time. Bro, he struggled a lot. Right, Khabib is a very good coach, and having your coach on your side during your fight, during the time where it's time to give it your all, time to go to war, you need him on your side. So Charles Oliveira has that record, the most submissions to the UFC. You guys don't think that Ilia Topuria is aware of that? He sees that, and Topuria, Ilia is one of those guys that he wants to be the first to do it all, right? First to break that record, first to make this history, to create this legacy, to create this empire. That's who Ilia is. He's a visionary. He sees it, and then he goes and gets it. Whatever he says, it happens. And he's proved us wrong countless amount of times. And nothing has changed in his mentality. Nothing has changed in his lifestyle. Nothing has changed in his spirit or in his fighting style. He's been doing the same thing consistently, day after day, and showing up to the max. So I think that's exactly what he's going to be doing here. And knowing that Charles Oliveira has that record of the most submissions in the UFC, he's going to want to go and take that from him. I think that everyone's expecting a knockout, right? And I know Ilia Topuria can definitely knock out Charles Oliveira. There's no doubt in my mind. He has got the great striking. We've seen Charles Oliveira get dropped before multiple times. And usually he goes straight into jiu-jitsu, right? So everyone is expecting Ilia Topuria to knock out Charles Oliveira. And that could happen. I can definitely see that happening. But I think that if he does, either he does drop him, right? Charles Oliveira always goes to his back and starts doing jiu-jitsu. He's inviting them into his guard, right? That's one very dangerous against Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is going to smash you if you go into your guard, go into your back, pound, 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 ground and pound, right? But even so, I think he's going to drop him, stay patient, and he's going to try to look for a submission. Just so he can be like, I submitted the guy with the most submissions in the UFC history. I submitted the submission artist of the UFC. A champion from before, his style, I beat him in his favorite technique, which I think he's probably gonna get him in a guillotine. I think he'll either look for the guillotine or he will strike him out, drop him, find a way to grapple him, control him, and as Charles is getting up, I think he's gonna find a way to get a guillotine in. If not, there's gonna be a rear naked choke, and if not that, it's gonna be some crazy freaking submission that would have never expected. Because Ilia Topuria, he likes to do things with class. He likes to finish with class. He likes to give a performance. He wants to show people, damn, that guy did something crazy. And that's usually what he does. His striking is phenomenal. When he does do jiu-jitsu or grappling, like, it looks really, really good. And we have to consider this too. Yes, Ilia Topuria is a great striker. But he's more new to striking compared to grappling and jiu-jitsu. Originally, He was a wrestler. And then he started doing jiu-jitsu and judo and all the grappling techniques. And then he started learning boxing, focusing more on boxing when he started doing MMA, right? At the age of 15, he was still, more grappler based. But now we see the evolution of him going from a grappler to a striker. And now from just a striker and a grappler, he's a mixed martial artist. He trains jiu-jitsu separately from boxing and wrestling, and boxing separate from wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and wrestling separate from boxing, one individual sport, and then he mixes it all together. Charles Oliveira, he's just been dropped, man. And I see a lot of the shots that Ilia does that I know can drop Charles Oliveira. And it doesn't take much to drop him. So if Charles Oliveira is expecting to, if he gets dropped, go to your back and start doing jiu-jitsu, remember, you're going against somebody who started off with jiu-jitsu. In all reality, he's a jiu-jitsu player and a wrestler, so he's going to dominate you from the top with his wrestling style. And if you go to actually grappling with him, he's going to find his jiu-jitsu, find the choke, and then he's going to submit Charles Oliveira. I think so. Charles Oliveira has been shown to kind of give up before, I'm telling you. So if Ilia Topuria can push him to the edge a little bit, right, take him to deep waters, and that's usually what he does, pressure forward, gets out, goes back in, hits him again, I think he's going to drop Charles Oliveira, man. I see that happening. I see him dropping Charles Oliveira and finishing it there. I think it's going to be by a submission. What kind of submission? I have no idea. But I think it's going to be a drop going to a submission for Ilia Topuria. I don't know if I'm even upset about Islam not making this fight. I think I'm more excited now for this fight because we're moving this whole roster on. All right, we got a new champion, and he can actually defend against all of these lightweights, and these lightweights are freaking crazy. And Islam has a whole bunch of 170-pounders, guys, that need somebody to push them a little bit more. Because I've noticed that these 170 guys, they go with each other sometimes, and they go full rounds, and then they're just both really, really tired. But they didn't... I don't know. There's just a little pizzazz that's missing. And I think Islam is a good addition to the 170 pounds. So this is a good trade-off. Islam in the 170s, and we get Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for International Fight Week, June 28th at UFC 317. My pick and my prediction, I'm going Ilia Topuria, man. Charles, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I'm a huge Charles Oliveira fan. But Ilia Topuria, I'm a huge fan of him. I'm a huge fan of his mentality, of his style, of his striking, of his grappling, his IQ, man. Ilia Topuria is Ilia Topuria for a reason. He's a great fighter. I'm going Ilia Topuria by knockout or drop down in submission. I think he's gonna want to submit the master submission artist of the UFC. I think he's gonna want to submit the guy with the most submissions in the UFC. I think if the knockout is there, he'll take it. But he's not looking for it. He's looking to submit Charles Oliveira. That's just my personal prediction. What do you guys think? Leave it all in the comments below. Predictions, picks, comments, questions. Let me know all in the comments. Let's get to it. UFC 317, June 28th. It's coming up right around the corner. Time is going by fast. So just keep your eyes focused on what's to come. Big fights, more news to come. I'll catch you guys all in the next video.